Hi, I'm Charlene. I'm 30, and my parents insisted I come home for the holidays. After a 5-hour flight, they left me to watch the dog while they jetted off on a luxury vacation without me. I didn't argue. I just smiled. But when they returned and saw what had happened, they started yelling. Let's rewind. If you've ever felt betrayed by the people who were supposed to be your biggest supporters, comment below and tell me where you're watching from. It was early December when the first text arrived. You coming home this year? Followed by it would mean so much to your dad and me. And then the one that really hit me. The holidays aren't the same without you. I stared at that message for what felt like forever. It was the kind of text I'd been hoping for years. A line I'd rehearsed in my head so many times that when it finally appeared in my inbox, I didn't even question it. I just smiled. Work had been brutal. Our team was understaffed. My sleep schedule had collapsed into a cycle of naps between Zoom meetings. But I told myself, they asked. They miss me. So I did something I rarely do. I took time off. It took a full week of negotiations with my manager, shifting deadlines, promising to check in if necessary. But I managed to free up 5 days. I bought a ticket, packed a few small gifts, and imagined us playing board games, laughing at cheesy holiday movies, actually talking. The flight was long and uncomfortable. My seatmate ate something that smelled like feet dipped in hot cheese. But I didn't care. I was buzzing with that reckless, stubborn hope, the kind that survives years of being ignored and still shows up with a bow on its head. I stepped out of the Uber smiling, suitcase in hand. That's when I saw the trunk of my dad's car wide open, 3 large suitcases being shoved inside. For a moment, I thought maybe it was a surprise. Maybe we were going somewhere together. Maybe it was all part of the plan. Then my mom spotted me and waved cheerfully, like she hadn't just obliterated my holiday fantasy in real time. There she is. Just in time, she said. Just in time for what? I asked. The cruise, she replied, as if it were obvious. We didn't want to leave Bentley alone. She gestured toward the dog peeking from behind the door. I thought you said we were going on a cruise, I said. Just a quick getaway, my dad added, slamming the trunk shut. It's been a stressful year. Josh, my brother, grinned from the passenger seat. You'll be fine here. You love quiet. This is perfect for you. He said it like I was a rice cooker, a machine designed to exist quietly and efficiently. I stood there with my suitcase while my mom handed me a folded list titled Bentley's Holiday Routine. Instructions like, rub his ears clockwise, not counterclockwise, lavender diffuser on at 8 p.m. I didn't say a word. I just nodded and smiled, the way I always do when I'm trying not to break. They hugged me briefly, already distracted. My mom reminded me not to let Bentley eat cheese. My dad asked me to pick up a delivery scheduled for Wednesday. Then they got in the car and drove away. No one asked how my flight was. No one invited me to come along. No one even checked if I'd eaten. And just like that, I was alone in a house I technically own, with a dog I adopted years ago because my little brother wanted him. I locked the door. Bentley padded over and sat at my feet, tail wagging hesitantly. Hey, buddy, I whispered, kneeling to pet him. He smelled like old blankets and wet socks, his fur rough, thinner than I remembered. His water bowl was empty, his nails too long. My chest tightened. I filled his water, put out the food they'd left, and sat on the couch staring at the flickering Christmas lights, as if they might rearrange themselves into an apology. But nothing happened. The house remained silent. The heat clicked on. Bentley curled into a ball. I'd been sure this year would be different. Maybe they'd finally see me, not as the person who fixes bills and pays for repairs, but as their daughter, their sister. I was wrong. They saw me as a convenient solution. Free dog care, built-in security, their little on-time robot. I tried to shake it off, as I always did, excusing them, telling myself it wasn't personal, that maybe I just wasn't easy to love. I rubbed my temples, fighting back tears. The air smelled like cinnamon and candle wax. I was surrounded by decorations I hadn't put up, in a house they didn't thank me for maintaining, babysitting a dog they abandoned as soon as novelty wore off. And still, I wanted them to call. I wanted them to turn the car around and say, "We love you. Come with us." But they never did. Bentley sighed softly in his sleep. I stared at him, then opened my laptop. I didn't know what I was searching for. Not really. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to pretend this was normal anymore, because it wasn't. Bentley curled up next to me on the couch, pressing against my leg as if to anchor me. His fur was matted, he smelled like old shoes and sadness, but he hadn't left. I kept staring at the empty living room, half expecting someone to pop out and yell, "Surprise! We didn't really abandon you." No one did. It hurt, maybe because I had convinced myself I mattered more than I did. I thought that if I kept giving, they'd eventually see me as someone worth keeping around. Growing up, I assumed something must be broken in me, some missing piece. I was the quiet, weird girl who preferred puzzles to makeup, who color-coded books and made Excel spreadsheets for fun. I remember my mom once saying, half joking, "You weren't the easiest child to bond with." I was 10, teased by my brothers, told I was too sensitive, and stopped crying. That didn't help either. That's when I realized maybe I didn't need their recognition. Maybe it was time to see my own worth. If you've ever felt invisible or unappreciated by those who should have loved you the most, know you're not alone. And if you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I was buzzing with excitement for the party. My brothers had even mentioned that the neighbor kids were invited. I wore my nicest dress and carried a tray of cupcakes I'd baked myself. But when I stepped into the yard, it was empty. No laughter, no chatter, just a scrap of paper taped to the fence, covered in numbers and math problems. "Your kind of party, Josh," someone had mocked. Then they all ran off to the real party at someone else's house. I stayed on the porch steps for hours, even solving the equations on that paper, thinking maybe that was the key to getting them back. Of course it wasn't. By high school, I tried to fit in better. I laughed at the right moments, borrowed clothes from Mandy that never felt like mine, joined clubs I had no interest in, and practiced smiling in the mirror so my face wouldn't look strange. Yet people still called me intense, distant, almost robotic. Mandy once said, "You're not ugly. You just don't know how to be a real girl." I tried to learn. Still, I was always the one left off the invitation list, the one who got thank you texts only after Venmo reminders, the one constantly told, "You're hard to get close to." When I got into an Ivy League school, my parents said, "We're proud, honey, but don't let it go to your head." They didn't show up for graduation, citing expensive plane tickets. I believed them, until I saw Josh's birthday photos in Cabo that same week. I told myself it wasn't personal, that they just connected more with him. That if I could be more, maybe they'd notice me. I earned my degree, landed a job, sent money whenever they asked, paid their mortgage, helped Mandy through her divorce. I thought giving everything I had could replace closeness, but generosity can't force love when it's been withheld. Sitting on the couch with Bentley snuggled against me, I finally understood. Not anger, not betrayal, just a slow, heavy realization. I was a placeholder. Human financial plan. And thinking I could be anything more made me feel foolish. The house was a mess. Food on counters, dirty dishes, half-packed boxes, like they couldn't be bothered to make it presentable even though I hadn't been home in a year. To them, I wasn't a guest. I was the responsible one, the safety net. Even Bentley looked neglected, thinner, nails too long, water bowl foul. He whimpered when I bent down, like he'd been waiting weeks for someone to truly notice him. I rested my head against the wall. Maybe I was the problem. Too quiet, too strange, too clinical. I replayed every family conversation, searching for the moment I became invisible. Maybe I shouldn't have left. Maybe success changed me. Or maybe they never tried at all. I used to think boundaries were selfish, that saying no was cruel, that love meant sacrifice, especially painful sacrifice. Now I just felt small, exhausted, done. Bentley groaned as I stood, so I gave him a treat and fresh water. I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop, unsure what I'd do, only knowing something inside me had shifted. Not snapped, not exploded, just shifted. I typed stop. What to do if family lives in your house? I stared at the results, not knowing if I'd act. I didn't feel strong or clever. I just felt done. Let them call me cold, detached, overreacting, they already had. Bentley nudged my hand. I stroked his head, whispering, "If there's something wrong with me, at least I'm finally doing something about it." I printed one article. The paper slid out slowly, as uncertain as I felt. They returned on Sunday night. I was home, remote work approved for a family emergency. I knew the exact moment. The car rolled into the driveway. Bentley shot up and barked, more alarm than excitement. My heart pounded. A siren in a place that once felt safe. Car doors slammed. Voices boomed. "I told you she'd be fine," my mom laughed. She probably reorganized the pantry for fun. Josh joined in with more laughter. I didn't move, just watched through the peephole. Mandy noticed first. She rattled the handle, tried again. I imagined her brows knitting in confusion, entitlement simmering. "Why is the door locked?" Dad tried his key, nothing. Josh tried next, shoulder against the door. Bentley barked louder. I picked him up, arms trembling not with fear, but something quieter, final. Then came the pounding. "Charlene, open up. The locks are jammed." I sat on the couch with Bentley, stroking him. Knock, knock, fists pounding. "Charlene, what the hell? Did you change the locks?" I didn't answer. I had already, 3 days after they left. Not from anger, though I had plenty, but from practicality. The house was a mess. Bentley neglected. Doors unlocked, trash overflowing. As the legal owner, I had every right. I'd even consulted a lawyer first. Now they were back, expecting the world to revolve around them. "You can't do this. This is our house." Mandy screamed. The floodgates opened. "Charlene, open this door right now. We trusted you with the dog, and you can't just lock us out." "This isn't just yours," I said firmly. "It's mine. I bought this house 6 years ago. It was temporary, a fallback. I paid the mortgage while you lived here, just until you got back on your feet. Somehow, it became yours in your minds, and I became the silent benefactor who owed you everything." I stood, hands trembling, not with fear, but adrenaline catching up. I approached the door but didn't open it. Through the closed frame, I said, voice steady. I secured the property. The house was in poor condition. Bentley was neglected. Doors unlocked. Overflowing trash. This is why I changed the locks. I spoke with a lawyer. Silence followed. Then Mandy's voice cut through, sharp and outraged. "You're insane. You can't just change the locks because you feel like it." I didn't feel like it. I responded calmly. I'm the legal owner. And I did what I had to do to protect my home. Josh started shouting something about suing me. Dad's voice climbed in a way I hadn't heard since I was 15. When I dared to suggest, "Can we skip church for my math competition? You ungrateful brat. After everything we've done for you." I laughed, didn't mean to. It just slipped out. A sharp, breathless sound that even startled me. "Everything you've done for me." I repeated it in my head. "You mean the free babysitting? The financial black hole? Or the birthday party where you left me alone with math problems as a joke?" More yelling. I walked away. I called my attorney to let her know they were there. She told me not to open the door and instructed that all communication go through her office from now on. Then Josh went around to the side, trying to pry open the kitchen window. Mandy screamed from the porch. My mom stood in the yard, crying loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Dad paced like a man who couldn't believe the waitress had just handed him the bill. I called the police. When the officers arrived, I handed them the deed, photos of the house's condition, and Bentley's vet report. They stayed calm and professional. One officer turned to my dad and said, "Sir, she owns the house. There's no lease agreement. She has every legal right to secure her property." My mom cried. The officer confirmed, for once, that I hadn't done anything illegal. No one defended my family. No one twisted the story to paint me as the villain. No pitying looks, no jokes at my expense. Just facts, just boundaries, just me, hurt but standing my ground. The police told them to leave and take any disputes through legal channels. Stunned, furious, humiliated, my family eventually left. I watched from the window as their car backed out. Mandy flipped me off from the passenger seat. Josh shouted something I couldn't hear. My mom didn't look back, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the one left behind. Bentley climbed into my lap, his weight grounding me. I think we're going to be okay, I whispered. I used to think if I fixed myself, if I smiled enough, gave enough, worked hard enough, they'd finally see me. But it wasn't me who needed fixing. Maybe being the quiet one didn't make me broken. Maybe it made me mine. I didn't cry. Thought I might. But there were no tears left, only a deep, pulsing sense of something else. Relief. Power. I wasn't angry. Not hurt. Just done. And sometimes that's stronger than rage. I thought that was the end. But people like my family don't leave quietly. Not when entitlement has been their love language for decades. 3 days later, emails started. First from my sister, then my mom, finally my dad. The tone shifted from confusion to rage to manipulative desperation. You've embarrassed us. We don't understand why you're doing this. You're being dramatic, Charlene. This isn't like you. And finally, Mandy, you seriously need help. I didn't respond. I forwarded everything to my attorney. Then the escalation. They tried breaking in again, in the middle of the night, assuming I'd be gone. Motion sensor lights snapped on. Security cameras captured everything. Josh and my dad with a crowbar, trying to force the back door. Police came again. My attorney pressed charges. They tried to claim the house was theirs, that I had stolen it, that some verbal agreement existed. But there were no documents, no leases, no proof, just louder voices and thinner arguments. Then, the one thing I should have seen coming, they sued me. It was laughable. A poorly constructed civil suit accusing me of illegal eviction, stealing the dog, and suffering a mental breakdown that supposedly made me a danger to the family's well-being. It should have rattled me. Maybe a year ago it would have. But now I was done flinching. I showed up to the first hearing in a gray pantsuit. Hair pulled back, expression unreadable. My lawyer handled most of it, but when I spoke, I was calm. I laid out the timeline, the house deed, payment records, screenshots of money requests, photos of Bentley's condition, the vet report, break-in footage, emails. Boring, methodical, airtight. When the judge asked them for evidence, they had nothing but vague statements and dramatic declarations of family betrayal. The case was dismissed. They left the courthouse humiliated. Mandy hissed something at me, but I didn't hear it. I wasn't listening anymore. You'd think that would be the end. But no, they found my tenant. Rachel texted me one night. Your sister showed up here screaming she's getting her house back. I had to call the cops. I offered to terminate her lease, but she refused. She liked the drama, apparently. I upgraded security and got a restraining order. Granted immediately. For the first time in years, the law worked for me. I was finally being heard. I hadn't lost a family. I'd lost people who never truly valued me. People who treated me like a resource, not a person. I was done being harvested. 6 months later, Bentley has his own corner in my New York apartment, with a soft rug, a window view, and 3 plush toys he pretends not to like. The house is fully rented. Rachel renewed her lease. I raised the rent slightly, and she didn't blink. I finally have savings. Real savings. I moved into a 1-bedroom, bought a plant. It's still alive, a miracle. My therapist said, cutting off your family doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're finally putting your own oxygen mask on. I confessed feeling guilty for being relieved. She smiled. That's called peace. Then I met Alex. No drama, just 2 people avoiding networking events, hiding near the bar, mocking buzzwords. He worked in finance, too. Different fields, same exhaustion. He didn't talk over me. Didn't flinch at my love of spreadsheets, actually listened. When I said my family thought I was robotic, he laughed. I've met robots with less emotional range. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. He came over the other day while I was setting up Bentley's orthopedic bed. I joked about being the human equivalent of beige wallpaper. He tilted his head and said, "You're not beige. You're titanium. Quiet, strong, impossible to bend." I didn't cry then, but I did later, alone in the kitchen, Bentley curled up nearby, a tired little witness to everything I survived. I used to think something was wrong with me. Now I know what was wrong. Letting people treat me like I didn't matter. And I don't do that anymore. That's what happened. Some say I went too far. Others say I should have done it years ago. Honestly, I'm still figuring it out. Was I heartless or finally setting boundaries? Justice or years of silence finally breaking? I don't have all the answers, but I want to hear yours. Did I do the right thing? Overreact or not act soon enough? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this from people who finally stood up and took control, subscribe to my channel.